Now let's check the modules building block. You should be already familiar with this concept. In Java, for example, the modules are represented as packages, or in C#, modules are represented as namespaces. So you may be comfortable with this pattern. The key to use properly the modules is to understand the high cohesion and low coupling concepts in the context of object-oriented programming. We are not going to explain them here, but you can check by your own before you continue. With this clear, modules serve as named containers for object classes that are highly cohesive with one another. The goal should be to ensure that all classes in a particular module are highly cohesive, and classes that are in different modules should be low coupled with the classes inside the module. Since modules in the context of domain-driven design are not generic storage compartments, it is important to properly name them. Their names are an important facet of the ubiquitous language, so select carefully the names for the modules. They should express some aspect of the ubiquitous language. As we know, the ubiquitous language could change. We could have new concepts, or maybe we can detect that a particular concept is not okay anymore. So be open and flexible to change the name of a module in order to properly sync it with the domain changes. Finally, there is one extra thing we want to tell you about modules. You can use them to prepare your source code to be splitted and deployed in different microservices in the future. We could create a different module for each possible domain, and inside each module we can define the proper modules for each tier in your application. So when the time to split comes, you will only need to take each domain model as a microservice. Now you have a lot of knowledge about modules. Let's check what are the modules we defined for our e-commerce domain. First, we have the com.company.ecommerce module. This is our base module. In this module, you will find a module for each one of the layers defined in our architecture. This means that we have a domain module, an application module, an infrastructure module, and a presentation module. In the application module, you will find all the application services, DTOs, transformers, and event handlers. For each one of the entities, we have a separate module that groups the related objects. In the domain module, you will find all the domain classes, including shared interfaces and shared components. We are going to have a module for each domain entity, and in each of those modules, you could find entities, value objects, domain services, domain events, builders, etc. You will also see one module for shared exceptions, and finally a module called event for all the domain event shared interfaces. In the infrastructure module, you will find all the classes that implement the different abstractions we defined in the domain and application layers. We have two modules here, event module and repository module. In event module, we have an implementation of the domain publisher, and in the repository module, we have a JPI repository implementation for each entity. In the presentation module, you will find our REST API definition grouped by entity. You will have here all the REST controllers and also some classes to standardize the REST API response. As you can see, one benefit of the modules is that help us to organize properly the different classes we have. It let us understand better the domain module and also navigate properly through all the different classes we have in our application.